Enjoy the show.
He did Michael Jackson Pigsby!
What?
Şu adam niye böyle ya?
O ne lan? Adam ya.
Most likely not. This guy is really bad.
Hey, my name's Sean, and a few weeks ago, Valve just officially released the sequel to Counter-Strike Global Offensive, creatively named Counter-Strike 2. Now, I'm sure for everybody who has ever played any real type of game on the PC, Counter-Strike is a name as old as time itself, and honestly, it's likely older than some of you watching this video right now. And I've been playing on and off since I was gifted a version of Global Offensive by a friend all the way back in 2015. I'm by no means a professional, in fact I'm probably the furthest thing from it, but I do consider myself who, when getting into a game, invests a decent amount of time into learning the game from more than just a casual standpoint. So after playing it a bit, I wanted to take a look back on how Counter-Strike 2 felt and what my own experiences of the game were. But before that, let's go back in time a little bit and familiarize ourselves with the franchise and how the state of the game was before the release of CS2. So Counter-Strike itself is a pretty popular series of FPS games that essentially define what the tactical shooter ought to be, with its origin starting out as a mod for another Valve title, Half-Life, featuring two teams of 5 players, with one team being the terrorists whose goal is to plant the bomb, and the other being the counter-terrorists whose goal is to essentially, well, counter them. With a variety of maps to play in and an in-match economy, the formula remains relatively unchanged since when it came out in 2000s, and Global Offensive, although really shoddy at first, have been refined and tuned quite a lot over the years, with a very vibrant esports scene running behind it. But that's not to say there weren't issues. After all, there was still the case of 64 versus 128 tick servers, and a general feeling of stagnation, especially during Valorant's initial release a short while ago. But it's fair to say the game was in a pretty good state when CS2 came out. And when the trailers first hit, talking about things like volumetric smokes, gorgeously remastered maps, and more importantly sub-tick servers, it's fair to say I and many others were really hyped for it. I think the last time I played Global Offensive was all the way back in 2020, and all the way in 2016 when I was seriously playing it as my main game. Now, like I said previously, I'm not a great player by any means. I think I peaked in LEM back in CSGO, but honestly, that's about as meaningful as saying I can walk on 2 legs. Most of my time playing CSGO was either playing 5-mans with some friends, or queuing ranked matchmaking by myself or with another friend. There's also a ton of other game modes in CSGO, including Wingman, Danger Zone, and a whole load of community servers such as surfing and escape maps that were super popular, but needless to say, I stuck with the basics. And similarly for CS2, most of my time was also spent queuing in 5-man premier lobbies, with some time in between playing some casual and wingman lobbies. My impressions of the game was that if you were even remotely familiar with Counter-Strike, and especially Global Offensive, you'll feel right at home. In fact, the changes to this game are so minor that it's closer to a major patch rather than a brand new game. And you might be asking yourself, why would I want to cover this type of game in the first place? After all, there seems to be a dime a dozen shooters out there, all of which have much more modern mechanics. Why go back to a relic of a game whose formula hasn't changed for nearly 20 years? And I'm gonna tell you that's exactly the reason why. That its success isn't from any huge changes it has, but rather how faithful it has been to the original formula. So after playing and streaming a ton of CS2, I've been really enjoying the game so far. That's not to say there weren't a fair amount of it's just a beta moments, but CS2 at its core is still an enjoyable game. And for me, playing on maps that are quote-unquote new, I got the same feeling of excitedly learning a new map back in the day and wanting to explore every small detail of it. And in particular, out of the 3 maps that I didn't have that much experience on, Vertigo, Ancient, and Anubis, Anubis was the clear standout out of the 3, feeling extremely fun, balanced, and aesthetically pleasing, especially the whole area behind canals in the middle. But as a whole, I really enjoyed the new Premier ranking system. And while it's true that having the flexibility of being able to select exactly which maps you wanted to play was nice, this felt like a great alternative that made your rank at least a little more reflective of your general knowledge of the game, rather than say being able to get global previously only playing on Office. The new tooling for learning smokes was also a great addition, and made learning them a lot more forgiving than before. But my biggest highlight of this game would be the change from the maximum rounds being 15 to now 12 with 1 overtime section. The change felt like a really welcome addition. CSGO previously had already felt like a really long game, especially when compared to other standard multiplayer games such as Dota or R6, with matches easily taking up to 70 minutes. And I'm not here to argue that MR12 changed how big of an impact luck has to do in a match, but I will say that in general, it just feels better to play. And it to me alleviates some of the fatigue with each individual match. The change to MR12 made matches that were less fun faster, and overall just made it seem less of a commitment to play while keeping the intensity of gun rounds. Now, is it for everyone? No. And I think there's a legitimate argument in the case of MR15. Or, at the very least, against MR12, with a lot of it being related to the economy, especially when pistol rounds are put into the mix. And I won't go nearly as far as to say that MR12 is the right system for this game, or that there even needs to be one system, but it does feel to the average and casual player better or just as good as before. And I think it's good that Valve was willing to try something new, or in this case something old. And circling back, remember when I mentioned casual servers? I feel like that the people that are really into CS tend to write these off as nothing more than just a waste of time, and that's certainly what I thought going in. But the more and more I played it, the more and more I enjoyed the more casual and goofy side of it, away from the intense 5v5s and into the 10v10 lobbies with full mic spam that you would find pretty much right out of a Modern Warfare 2 lobby. Seriously, I think for anyone that's feeling a bit too burnt out of regular CS, do try out playing a few 10v10 casual maps, even better if it's on Office. But like any CS2 video, like it or hate it, we really can't go on without talking about the things that it gets wrong. For a majority of CSGO's lifespan, there wasn't much of a direct competitor to it. Sure, there were games that were shooters such as COD or Battlefield, or even other tactical ones such as Rainbow Six Siege, and even some knockoffs such as Crossfire, but none really had the same feel and polish until Valorant came out. And I think it's important to talk about the things that Valorant does well and poorly, as a way of showcasing what we should be thankful for in CS, as well as what it could drastically improve from, such as a way more consistent development team, both in terms of content and involvement, and less of a reliance on finding games without third-party software such as Faceit. But what is true for both is that given any competitive game that's been released for a while, the new player experience is going to be bad. But in particular for CS, it's far from friendly. For one, the new player experience in CS just sucks, and it lacks any real form of new player tutorial. But even for veteran players, I would argue that CS would benefit a lot from those ones as well, whether that would be an aim trainer or direct maps that teach you how to smoke. And to a lot of veteran players, this can come off as a bit of a whine sometimes. After all, you've been developing your skills for well over a decade now, and you've done it through with a combination of Google, YouTube, and just training, all without the help of any in-game nonsense. But I'd argue that a lack of a direct in-game tutorial as a way of gatekeeping new players, or as an artificial barrier for entry, doesn't serve the game well. And the best part, the very same method that many of you used is the exact solution, incorporating community-made maps. After all, unless you're that one guy who only plays Valve official deathmatch lobbies, chances are you've come across to use some community maps to improve your skills over the time. And it only takes a bit of love for Valve to make these more accessible, especially in CS2. Even just working across to get this aim map working involved watching a YouTube tutorial, downloading the map, using a config setting, and launching it via the menu. I feel like there's a lot of new potential here for new players. And on a bigger note, leaving out Danger Zone and other community launchers doesn't do them any favors here. But that doesn't even address the bigger problem right now. And the worst part is at the launch of CS2, CSGO was officially unplayable, unlike when CSGO came out, which you could still play both Source and 1.6. There are clips out there of just hit registration being wrong and sometimes just disastrous, horrible performance issues, and one bug that lets you lean out of a corner in such a comical manner that you wouldn't be wrong if you thought you were in the middle of a Michael Jackson music video. And Valve themselves even changed their official banner on Twitter to commemorate this, so props on them for going along with a joke on this one. I'm not going to be defending Valve in here, saying that the game was released perfectly, or that it was ready, but I will give you some food for thought that might offer a more level-headed approach. It's important to remember that with the release of any new game or product, it's very hard to gauge the true state of it, and Valve wanted to prevent the player base from being split between CSGO and CS2, so that they could do their best in discovering all the issues out there. Now, could they have done this in the beta? Absolutely, but to the same degree, a little more debatable. And I would argue, as someone who is only slightly more than a casual, that the game still feels good to play, as anecdotal as that is. And I feel confident in saying that given how they've been rolling out tweaks very recently, and that they'll continue to polish and refine this game in the same way that they did Global Offensive. Seriously, Global Offensive was originally made for the Xbox, and that alone should tell you how far they've come. And CS2 is much closer to CSGO than CSGO was to 1.6 or Source. And I still believe in Valve to address this game as they have in the past. So, in the words of another famous Counter-Strike YouTuber, Valve, please fix. At the end of the day, despite all the acclaim and criticism that it has, it is at the core the same game that revolutionized the tactical shooter 20 years ago. Now, am I going to say that you're going to go into this expecting to be wowed and amazed? Certainly not. It's a game that's almost certainly made for serious fans much more than casual new players. But as someone who is a fan of CSGO and CS2, I can say that its release is weirdly nostalgic and reminds me of why I enjoy the game so much in the first place. So if you're a fan of Counter-Strike, you probably don't need me to tell you to try it out, since you've already likely playing. But if you haven't, whether you're someone who has never tried it before or someone who has just played previous titles but quit, I highly recommend you give it a try and see how sometimes simplicity really is the key. Thanks for watching, until next time.